Today, we're diving into something pretty heavy but absolutely crucial. We're going to try and map out the potential flashpoints for the next major global conflict. Basically, taking a hard look at where the world's biggest tensions could, boil over into actual war.
So what kicked all this off? Well, you might have seen this quote from Elon Musk making the rounds. He predicted a major war, possibly nuclear. And that kind of statement, well, it forces us all to ask some really serious questions about what's coming.
And here's the part that really gets you. The timeline. He's not talking about some distant, far-off future. He's saying within the next 5 to 10 years. That specific window is what makes this so alarming, and it's exactly why we're digging in deeper today.
Okay, so the big question is, how seriously should we take a prediction like this? Is it just high-profile speculation, or is there some real, solid analysis to back it up? To figure that out, we have to get past the headline shock and look at the actual data.
And that's exactly our mission here. The source material for this whole explainer really hammers this point home. To get a real sense of the risk, you got to look at the detailed work coming out of think tanks and from geopolitical strategists, the people whose entire job is to calculate these kinds of probabilities. So let's put that idea into practice. Our first potential flashpoint, that long, tense border between Russia and NATO. This is a region that's already under so much strain, where the risk of things escalating is just constant.
And here are the key things pushing tensions higher. First, obviously, the war in Ukraine is creating this constant instability. Then you have a NATO official talking about potential preemptive strikes, which, as you can imagine, got a really sharp response from Putin, who basically said Russia is ready for a wider conflict. It's this dangerous back and forth, and it's all made even more complicated by things like the diplomatic scrutiny over Russia's relationship with India, which just muddies the waters for any global response.
Okay, so from that standoff in Europe, let's shift gears and head over to South Asia, because India is facing a really unique and complex situation. Major tensions on two separate borders against two very different adversaries. This slide does a great job of breaking down the two challenges. On one side, with China, a huge land war is actually seen as unlikely because of a military stalemate. The bigger threat, according to the analysis, is actually clashes at sea, out in the Indian Ocean. But then you look at the other side, with Pakistan, and the risk of a border conflict is rated as high. Now, it does depend on things like political stability and economic pressures, but the risk is definitely there. It's a classic two-front problem, and each front has a totally different kind of risk. All right, our third flashpoint takes us to the Middle East. There, a conflict that's been simmering in the shadows for decades is now really threatening to explode out into the open. We're talking about the long-running shadow war between Israel and Iran, and there are signs it could become a direct head-on confrontation.
And the language being used in the source reports here, it's not vague at all. They describe an imminent war as a distinct possibility. That suggests the danger here isn't just some theory, it could be immediate. And that pushes this flashpoint way up the list of global concerns.
So let's just take a breath and recap everything we've looked at. We've got 4 critical spots. In Eastern Europe, the big danger is escalation between Russia and NATO. Over in South Asia, it's that two-front problem, maritime clashes with China and a high-probability border conflict with Pakistan. And then in the Middle East, you have what looks like the most immediate threat of all, a direct war between Israel and Iran. Which brings us to the big picture, the main takeaway. When you put all these flashpoints together, it becomes pretty clear that we are walking into a seriously important and seriously volatile period in modern history. Really, the bottom line from all this analysis is that the next 5 years are going to be pivotal. How these conflicts get resolved, whether it's through diplomacy or through war, could completely change the global order for decades to come. And that leaves us with one last big question that comes straight from the analysis. Now that you've seen the evidence laid out across all these different regions, which one of these incredibly tense situations do you think is the most immediate threat? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me today.